Neil Haley Show on the ProVision Brokerage Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome to the program my co-host, Eric Couch. Eric, how are you? How are you surviving? Now, remember, you were the one that was telling me you had no restrictions at all at times. And I was the one that was stuck in the restrictions. Now you've dealt with it.
And now we've kind of flip-flopped here.
It's kind of flip-flopped completely.
Yeah. So Dallas and Texas is under lockdown. But, it's still going well. People are, they're honoring the order. Everybody's got to wear a mask if you're out. I probably have one around here. I guess we could do the interview in a mask, but just for a little comic relief. But yeah, business is still going. People are still, getting out as needed. Nobody's being foolish for the most part. But at the same time, realizing that, hey, we've got families, we've got, mouths to feed. So people are figuring out how to work, and whether that's from home or over the phone, it's a new paradigm, but it's working, right? Just like this. I would love to be in person with you guys.
That'd be awesome.
But it's still exciting and fun to be able to have this conversation. So yeah.
All right. Cool. That's introduce our great guests for us today.
Oh man. So, there's really no introduction needed, but for anybody that has ever watched, Marvel and Thor, of course, there's the god of thunder, right? Well, today we have the thunder god, right? So today, famous drummer with a phenomenal story, and but we're going to talk to Rick Allen. He is the drummer for Def Leppard, and we're also talking to his bride, who they've got a lot that they're going to share with us today, Lauren Monroe. And we're excited to have you, and we're looking forward to just having a great chat.
Guys, thanks for stopping by. Really awesome to get you all here, especially. And I love the story, Eric, because the story of looking at a power couple, that's how I look at it, that are really transforming and making change. That's such an important thing, Eric, as you've talked about always in your marriage, for sure, is that importance of partnership, right, Eric?
Absolutely. So Catherine and I work together. My wife, we just celebrated 20 years of marriage, and went up to Yellowstone at the end of May for our 20th. It was amazing. And that's something we're really passionate about, because as you know, it's marriage isn't easy. There's actually a passage in the Bible that says, marriage will be tough. And I don't remember anybody reading that in our marriage vows section, that it's tough, but it's also been wonderful, right? So I'm excited to have you two on the call today. Unfortunately, Catherine couldn't join us because she's picking up our son, but this is going to be great.
All right, Eric, ask the first question for Rick, because I'm just so interested in learning the story, and then get Lauren's feedback on this story, because this story is just amazing.
Absolutely. Lauren, you have all the dirt, right? You can fill in all the gaps here. But Rick, tell us about how you got into drumming. Apparently your 15th birthday, you had an audition. So I would love to hear the story of how you got into Def Leppard, and a little bit about that journey.
Cool. I'd been playing from about the age of 10. My best friend John, he got a guitar for Christmas, so I went home and asked my parents if I could have a drum kit, and the answer was no, because we couldn't afford it. But then I kept pestering them, and about a week later they said, okay, if you go for lessons. And so I ended up going for lessons with this guy, Kenny Slade, who used to play with Joe Cocker. And I did some jobs around the neighborhood, washing cars, trying to help out at home. And it was great. So probably about 6 months after I started lessons, I got my first drum kit, which was... it wasn't the best drum kit, but it was fantastic at the time. And I loved the fact that I got this thing, and my parents were so supportive. And then, fast forward, I ended up playing with a few local bands, and then I was about to quit the business at the ripe old age of 14. And we saw an article in the local newspaper that said leopard loses skins. So we called up the journalist, a guy called Keith Strong, and got in touch with Steve Clark and Joe Elliott. I met them a couple of days later, and we talked, and we realized that we'd probably been to all the same shows, probably stood next to each other at the same concerts. And they said, okay, you know, come down and play. So I went down to their rehearsal room, an old Spoon factory in Sheffield. And the original drummer came back. He wanted his job back. Another guy came, and I was there. And they asked me, you know, if I wanted to go first. I said, no, I'm fine. So I ended up playing last. And I got a pretty good ear, so I was able to pick up on all the subtleties and the parts. Anyway, when I got up and played, I just saw big smiling faces in the room. And yeah, after that, they kept me behind, and they said, you've got the job. So the rest is history.
Lauren, growing up, were you a fan of Rick's? When did you first know Rick's music?
I had the first and second albums. I had Down Through the Night and High and Dry. So I knew the band, but then I, you know, kind of moved on to.
You got into disco music, right?
I know, AC/DC and Van Halen, and as well as disco and a lot of other things. So I kind of lost track of, you know, the band. I wasn't a diehard fan or anything, but I obviously appreciated what he did. And then when his accident happened, I was, you know, it really touched me deeply. His whole story. I didn't know him then, but yeah, no, I wasn't a groupie or a huge fan at the time. Sorry.
That's always what the wife says about someone else's, regardless of their success. Always have to keep them humble, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, we actually met each other through a mutual friend in, I think it was 2000, right?
Yeah.
We were playing in Colorado Springs, and Lauren, with her expertise, you know, with the massage work and energy work, I really needed. I was in such a lot of pain at the time, so my friend said, "Oh, I know this girl, and she can really help you." And we met at the show the night of the Def Leppard show, and then we worked together. A couple of days later?
Yeah. And then we became friends, and you know, life happens.
Exactly. Especially when there's synergy for sure. Eric, next question for Rick.
So, well, and real quick, how long y'all been married? So you met in 2000.
Got married in 2003.
All right.
Was that 16 or 17 years now?
17 years this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's your secret to success?
You know, I think doing projects together, being in service together, really keeps us together. And we play a lot of music together. We do art together. We have our foundation, and I think that is something really special that you get to have with a spouse, and you know, common interests and love for humanity. It keeps you humble and gives you a purpose in your marriage, I think, outside of just being a family, which is very important as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it sounds like, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, most people, you know, they know nothing about, you know, the other person's work, or, you know, whereas with myself and Lauren, I think because we spend time at home, doing things like this. Recently, we were rehearsing, doing a lot of rehearsals for this group called Palenque Arts for kids music programs, And it was fantastic because we got to hang out at home and practice. And, we got better. We got better and better as each day came in. And it's not very often you get to do things like that with your spouse,
Yeah.
Having common interest is something that sometimes they talk about opposites attracting. It's really the common interests that really keep a marriage going, because if you don't have those common bonds that keep you together, then there's separation a lot of times, Eric. And I'm sure you guys, Lauren and Rick, agree with me as well. If you don't have some commonality, then it's just like after a certain amount of time, where's that best friend type thing out there? And I think it's such an important thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what I just see is seeing, as Lauren pointed out, right, seeing each other's strengths, and y'all feed off each other's strengths, and doing these projects together, and using that, and it's encouraging the other one. And that's probably the biggest thing that we've learned. So Catherine and I worked together for a couple years. She's the president of our company, and
of course,
and it didn't go so well. I'll be honest, it did not go so well. But then, took a few years off. My father lived with us and had Alzheimer's, and she was caregiver of him and our kids and running the home. And that was more than a full-time job. Regardless of W-2 or not, it's very full-time. And then she came back about 3 years ago and started working. And it's just, the key difference is just, recognizing each other's strengths and building that up rather than all the weaknesses, right? Because we all have both. And that's what I'm loving hearing with you guys, is just sharing those strengths and doing things together and finding the passions that you're both passionate about, like your charity. And I want to hear all about it. And just be able to do something. And you've got a project right now that there's an amazing picture behind, Lauren's head, that we're going to talk about that. But first, before we get into it, right? So, Rick, when, other than pouring sugar, when did you guys know this thing's going to work, right? When did you realize that, this is big?
Well, I joined the band in 1978, and we started off, doing small shows, but it got some traction in England, and then we started to get some traction in parts of Europe. But I don't think it was until we came to America in 1980, May 20th, 1980. Santa Monica Civic opening up for Pat Travers. The amazing thing for all of us was to be on stage and everybody in the audience knew our songs. And that was when we kind of went, wow, how could this be? They live all the way over across the Atlantic, and they know all our songs. So that was a huge boost for all of us, and that's when we realized that maybe we're onto something.
Yeah. So now you've got a wild story, right? You're the drummer, the Thunder God, and yet you're a drummer with one arm. That's not a common thing. So I'd love for you to just kind of take us through the story of what happened. But then also I'm interested in, the mental of, you had a fight. You don't just lose an arm and get back to being a world-class professional drummer without something, right?
No, it was very, very tough in the beginning. Just briefly, I lost it in a car accident, and actually the seatbelt came undone and actually took my arm off. I left through the sunroof of the car, landed in a field, and I remember staying conscious, and I think that's the thing that actually saved my life, because I didn't bleed out. And then and then I woke up in the hospital. The next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital a couple of weeks later. And to be honest, I didn't really know what had happened to me. And then when I realized what had happened to me, I just wanted to disappear. I didn't want to see anyone. I just wanted to, I just wanted to become really small. And I felt so self-conscious, and it was awful. But then some wonderful things started happening to me. I asked my brother to bring my stereo into the hospital room, and I started playing all the music that I grew up listening to. And I had this piece of foam at the bottom of the bed, and I realized I could play all the basic rhythms that I'd ever known, just using my feet. So shortly after that, a good friend of mine that has an electronics business, he came and saw what I was doing with my feet, and he said, I could build you some pedals. I could actually help you to play again. And he developed these pedals. I was supposed to be in hospital for months and months and months. I got out of hospital within a month, and the first thing I did was I went to his store where he had the pedals set up, played for about 5 minutes, and I was completely exhausted. But I think the thing that caught me was I got so much support from people around the world. I got letters, like thousands and thousands of letters. My family, the band were great. And I went from wanting to disappear to really finding the human spirit. I think that's what really catapulted me into wanting to succeed, and all the support I was getting from around me. And I think the other thing that helped me tremendously was I stopped comparing myself to others, and I stopped comparing myself to how I used to be. Mm-hmm. And I embraced how unique this was to be able to play drums, you know, with these foot pedals. And in a you know, briefly, that's kind of where it all started.
Story. And Lauren, from that is the idea for the foundation. A lot of ways what he had to go through, Rick. So did you guys come up with this together, or the foundation? Explain a little bit of that story, Lauren.
We did come up with it together when we met. My background's in healing work and massage therapy and energy work and mindfulness practice, and I worked with people with various different experiences of trauma. And so when I met Rick, I met him as a healer in that way, and I was also a musician. So, and I was a drummer. I play percussion, djembe, and percussion instruments. So we started, I had him come to my classes. I was teaching at the Boulder College of Massage in Boulder at the time in Colorado. So I'd have him come in, and we would create various workshops around healing with the drums and healing with mindfulness practice. And we decided to just start doing it for other populations. So we worked with kids who had disabilities, kids that also lost limbs.
Oh my.
And we said, we need to do this. It's so effective. I mean, it doesn't matter what population it was, people connected immediately. And you didn't have to have language, which is nice. You know, it really, the drums bring people together so immediately that we decided to start a 501c3 so we could do this, and in a way that we would be able to have the community support it and get more people involved. And that was a start in 2001.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick, when you heard the idea, you said, wow, I should have thought of this earlier. It's someone as great as Lauren that figured this one out for me, right? The foundation part of it.
No, I couldn't have done it on my own. You know, she definitely gave it legs and gave it you know, just we had a common goal, but I didn't really know how to do it on my own. And I think Lauren brought that to the table.
All right, Eric, next question.
And that's where the team comes in, right? And you know, everybody's had adversity to one point or another. And Lauren, I'm sure there's a reason that you got into, you know, focusing on healing and these areas, and I'm sure it's partially because you're just a great person and you love to help people, but there's a backstory behind that too, because we all have hurt, right? So when you bring that, and then Rick has his story of trauma, and the way that you two are helping people face adversity, because it's so easy to get beat down and just give up, regardless of whether it's due to a physical or mental or relational or emotional or whatever, right? So many people give up in life because somebody told them they couldn't do it, right? You lost an arm, you can't be a drummer anymore. And instead of going with that, you're like, watch me.
No, that's interesting you say that. I actually had a junior doctor come in, and I was obviously very vulnerable. And this junior doctor, he just said, you know, you're never going to wave again, let alone play the drums. And I just felt so defeated at the time. So anyway, when I became an outpatient, I saw the same junior doctor when I came into the hospital, and the first thing I did was and you know, he didn't know, but I was about to be the comeback kid in terms of being able to play drums again. So people's recovery is complex. Maybe in a twisted way, he was something to do with lighting a fire under him. I don't know whether that was his intention, but you know, you get all these positive comments. You know, you put something out there on the internet, or you get all these positive comments. There's always one person or two people with a big thumbs down. It's like, and you concentrate on those people.
Yeah.
So he stayed in my mind, and I think he was part of what lit a fire under me, and I found that human spirit and that passion, you know.
That's so tremendous. And that's the thing, when people tell you you can't, it fires me up to say, I'm going to do it. You told me I can't, you know, I could just see for how difficult a challenge you had. But for me, when people say, oh, you're not going to be able to do this, why are you doing this? Well, it drives me to do more. It drives me to do it. And when people, the doubters, the naysayers, are somebody that, I guess what, that just gives me more fuel for the fire to say, I'm going to do it. And I think it's so important, because if you don't have that passion, forget about it. You'll always have a doubt in your mind. You're not going to reach the level you need to reach. And that's your story, Rick, is just phenomenal. Now, Lauren, now you guys together with a project. So, you know, you talk about always working the foundation together, but music together. Is this the first time you've done this together, where you like are together in music type of thing with it coming out, working together with the foundation, or working together as a couple? But now this EP, tell us about it.
Well, Rick and I did a record in 2008, and we released it. It was kind of a soft release. We didn't really put it out there very much, but it was a great experience. He produced it, and we did a wonderful tracking in our home studio. But this time, I'm working with the producer, Jim Scott, and Rick came in as a drummer to drum among other drummers that I was very fortunate to have on this record. And so this isn't the first time we've worked together at all. He's been a part of my musical experience since I met him. But my music journey started when I was really young, and I had several bands along the way before I met him. Although my focus has always been in the healing work primarily. It's great that we could get to do this together now.
Yeah, this is an awesome project, because it's not just about selling music, it's about helping others. So it relates the music and the foundation together. So tell us, people that purchase this, who it's helping.
Well, the Big Love single is out now, and you can pre-order the record, but it's coming out officially tomorrow, July 10th. So you'll be able to buy it. And the proceeds from the Big Love track is going through our resiliency program, but it will be helping various types of trauma communities. One is being Indigenous people who are suffering trauma and recovery, as well as our military. We work, our Project Resiliency is a branch of Raven Drum Foundation that we have. It's a program specific for veterans suffering with PTSD and trauma from combat. So that's where the funding is going to go. It's going to be funneled through those two areas.
And that's what I love, is the fact that it's helping other people in two different ways. And Rick, you and Lauren have added another component to the charity in a lot of ways by helping other people too that have been injured and stuff. Like when you talk about combat veterans and stuff. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that real quick. Yeah.
Well, you know, my trauma wasn't combat related, but you know, as you know, you mentioned earlier, you know, we all hurt in one way or another, and you know, it could be an abusive relationship, a car accident, a sports injury, or it could be, you know, combat related. So the interesting thing is, when I first went to visit some of our wounded warriors in 2006, I realized they were speaking a very similar language to me, or, you know, the things that I'd experienced. You know, more sort of negative ways of sort of, you know, like self-medication and rage and, you know, all these things that afflicted, you know, some of our wounded warriors with PTSD, I'd also experienced. So it seemed like a good match, and I felt as though I really wanted to make a difference, you know, in their lives and inspire them through all the gifts that I'd been given, you know, from playing drums with Def Leppard and all the work that I do with Lauren, you know.
That's tremendous. And Eric's final question that he always asks is involving legacy. And Eric, go ahead and ask that question.
Yeah, so, you know, a big part of what this show is about is, you know, influencers, but then more so, how do you use that influence? And obviously you guys are using it incredibly to make an impact of those who need that encouragement, which we all do, but just with PTSD, with Wounded Warrior, you know, project, with all the others that your nonprofit helps. So my question is always kind of, you know, regarding your legacy, right? Whether that's in music, whether that's in marriage and life, could be any of the above, all of them. What would you like your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for, or the impact that you have?
And I guess both of you can answer this.
Yeah.
Okay, Lauren, you go first.
I guess if I had any kind of legacy, I would be being a person who could lead with love, and someone who was brought people together to unify people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd want to be remembered for you know, bringing joy into people's lives, and sometimes it's something very simple, like you know, I'll see somebody out at the backstage door and just go out and talk to them, or take a photograph, or sign something, and, you know, it takes such a small effort on my part to make people really happy. So I think that's what I'd like. I'd like to be remembered as bringing joy into people's lives.
That's fantastic, and you're an inspiration. And I'm glad this story is coming out in a positive manner, especially with a lot of the negativity that's in the media right now. And that's why I love doing a show with Eric, and all of my different shows I do, when we highlight celebrities and their stories. This is just a tremendous story that I never knew about. I mean, I knew about, you know, the injury, but never what the backstory is, what's happened afterwards. And hopefully more and more people can learn this story. So Lauren, where's the best place we can find out about the foundation, the song, all that? Where can we go purchase it, all that? Where's
Foundation, you can go to ravendrumfoundation.org or project-resiliency.org. Takes you to the same place. You'll learn about all the programs that we have going on and the intention and the mission of the non-for-profit. You can go to lauramonroe.com. You'll see everything about me and what's going on. I would love it if you went to my Laura Monroe Music on YouTube to check out the Big Love video, which has really been wonderful to create that and to share it. And yeah, music's available on all digital platforms as of tomorrow, July 10th.
And Rick, are any other projects you're up to right now, especially during COVID time? Or
who, me?
Yeah, you.
Just practicing. I've just started painting again, so you know, there's always stuff to do at home. There's always loose ends, you know. So, and I was just telling somebody the other day, it's the first break that that Def Leppard have had since 2010. So, you know, in a strange way, it was kind of welcome, you know, just to be able to put the brakes on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for stopping by, taking the time. Tremendous stories, and keep up the great work of helping so many people, because that's what you're doing through this platform, and keep it up.
Cool, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
You're listening to the Neil Haley Show and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're here at the Neil Haley Show, and I'm here with my co-host and caregiver Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. I know you're excited about our guest. I got to chat with her once when her book came out about her and her husband. It was a radio tour maybe 4 years ago, but never got the pleasure of seeing her in person. So introduce our guest.
Oh my God. How do you introduce Suzanne Somers? Everybody knows her, from men to women to young boys. She was Chrissy Snow on Three's Company when they fired her unreasonably because she wasn't making as much as a man. She went on to her new career after a tiny little bit of depression, and she was a Vegas hit. I think Frank Sinatra was the #1 man in Vegas. Guess who was #2? Suzanne Somers. She's written a gazillion books, and she's here on the show with us today. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm so happy to be here and to talk to you again. And Neil, nice to talk to you. And I just want to say one thing. Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
He called me baby. He used to say, I'd walk in the room and he'd go, "Hello, baby." And I'm sorry, Alan. It gave me a little chill up my spine.
And I actually said it wrong. I said Frank Sinatra was the #1 entertainer. You were #2. No. He was the #1 male entertainer in Las Vegas. You were the #1 female entertainer in Las Vegas.
Lucky me. You know, out of every negative comes a positive. After I was fired, as you just mentioned, my contract was up. You had to renegotiate, but Laverne and Shirley had just renegotiated their contract, and they gave ABC a colonic, and they decided that they had to put a stop to that. So I was the next one to come in. Actually, my husband got a call the night before from a guy way high up in the CFO office, and he said, "You didn't hear this from me, but they're going to hang a nun in the marketplace, and it's going to be Suzanne." And that's what they did. But out of every negative comes a positive. I never would have written all these books. I've written 27 books. I would not have said to my husband, "You know, I'd like to do a nightclub act in Las Vegas," to which he said, "Can you sing?" I said, "Yes."
Very good.
I went on, and gosh, there is nothing more fun than being a Vegas headliner. Wow. And because there was this curiosity, because Chrissy Snow from Three's Company was cut short for people, they wanted to see more of her. So they came and they came and they came in droves, and we sold out 2 shows a night every night for years and years, and it was just wonderful. So,
You know, and thinking about that, Suzanne, I think that I remember hearing the story because you talked about your husband and you in the book, that you kind of gave us a short part of that story, is the fact that, you know, that you had that process to say, I'm going to even overcome this. It was a tough hit for you. But then imagine that what you've done, which I'm the most impressed with, is your entrepreneurship. The ability that you have taken not just that Vegas brand and the show brand to making the most gigantic brand from your knowledge, your ability to be an entrepreneur. So from actress to entrepreneur, kind of tell that process of how you said, I just want more. It just seems like that's who you are. You talked about the pandemic. It's not hurt me. I have figured out a way to evolve. And now I see it's more important for me to work on what I'm doing and building, you know, all these new products and continue to be out there all the time. So tell us about that.
Yeah.
well, I got cancer. And that became this veiled gift. And I thought, what have I done in my diet and lifestyle to play host to this terrible disease? And then I realized a lot of stress. I had a lot of stress as a kid. I grew up, I've written several books about being a child of a violent alcoholic. We had a closet to hide in at night. Imagine my brother and my brothers, my one brother died. My 2 brothers and my sister and I, my mother would say, get in the closet, get in the closet, get in the closet. And that meant he was really violent. We'd have to go in, and my brother had rigged a lock on the inside. And that's what I accepted as normal growing up. That's so not normal. And I was never depressed as a child, but I had a lot of fear. I think fear manifests, and when you go like, how did I get cancer? I remember talking to a medium after I was diagnosed. Barry Manilow told me about this medium that he goes to, and I thought, all right. And he said, I didn't say anything to this medium. And he said, as a child, you couldn't handle it, so you entombed it. And that took the form of this tumor. But what it did for me was I changed my life. I changed the way I ate. I switched only to, because I didn't want chemotherapy, so I turned that down. Which you haven't lived until you are lying in bed one night and watching the Larry King show, hats off to Larry King. So many of my bestsellers are because of him, but he's got this guy on, Andrew Weil. You probably interviewed him. And Andrew Weil and Larry are discussing my cancer and the fact that I didn't take chemical poison. And Andrew Weil said, well, she's going to die. Imagine lying in bed going, no, I'm not. So I wrote Andrew Weil and I said, you know, you got some nerve. You've never seen my medical records. And I said, for someone who wrote your thesis on the hallucinogenic properties of nutmeg, I think that you might be a little more open-minded about the fact that I'm going to eat organic food and I'm going to value sleep and I'm going to change my life completely. So I did. And then when I beat it, I started writing books about health because I was very interested in health. Well, and then I started realizing, why is cancer such an epidemic? It's an epidemic. They don't want to say it, but it is. They don't have a cure. Nobody goes, I have cancer, I'll just have a few rounds of chemo and everything will be okay. We know that's not so. So I thought, where's it coming from? Well, you start connecting dots. We're under the greatest environmental assault in the history of humanity. And so the toxic buildup or toxic burden in each of our bodies needs to be detoxed out, not chemically poisoned out. That doesn't solve anything. So I thought, where are the chemicals coming from? Well, it comes from the air we breathe, from the food we eat, and what we put on our skin. And if you look at your skin under a microscope, what we know is pores actually look like big holes under a microscope. And now I have the visual of putting chemical creams, expensive chemical creams, you know, these fancy brands that you get on the first floor of the fancy department stores, which, by the way, are all closing now. You put that over, where's that going to go in those big holes? Well, it's going to drop in, right? It's going to get into your bloodstream. Then where's it going to go? Well, it's going to rampage in your bloodstream. It's first got to go through and then go through the GI tract. And so the chemicals get in the stomach. and then they eat through the barrier lining of your GI tract, causing leaks. You've heard of leaky gut?
Leaky
That's
gut.
what leaky gut is. It's like the chemicals eating through the barrier tract, the barrier wall. The barrier wall is your immune system. I love talking about this. The immune system is the length of a tennis court. And if you could visualize the length of a tennis court and then wrap like a rope, like wrap mucus all the way around that. I know, ew, but that mucus is our immune system. We make antiviral, bacterial, anti-cancer. We make interferon. And so if you got chemicals eating through that immune system, now you've lowered your immune system. You've got chemicals in your bloodstream. And what do chemicals like best? They like fatty organs and glands. The one they like the best is the brain. That's the fattiest of them all, 65% fat. So if they can bypass and get right up to your brain, they like it. So is it no wonder that our children now have ADD, initials I didn't hear about when I was a kid, ADD, ADHD, OCD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dementia, Alzheimer's, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. And so that like turned me on, like, wow, if we could backpedal and rethink this whole thing, what if what you put on your skin, I'm getting to the entrepreneurship now. I didn't lose my train of thought. What if what you put on your skin was good for you? What if it was loaded with needed nutrition and minerals and organic, olive-based and things like that? And so that's how I got into the Suzanne Organic skincare business. I found a formulator who was as passionate as I was, and it's all made in the United States. We're really proud of that. And then it just evolved into, well, we're going to do skincare. Might as well do hair care. We do hair care. We might as well do makeup. We do makeup. We might as well do household, non-toxic cleansers. So that's how I have over 1,000 products now. And there are people who can't live without them because mine is so clean and so pure. So never look a negative in the face of not being a gift horse. Every negative you can see on the other side, that where's the opportunity in this? How can I learn and grow spiritually, health-wise, or physically? So that's how it began. But now the most fun, I started drinking tequila. I had an alcoholic father, so I never drank hard liquor. But when our house burned down in Malibu, because if you live in Malibu, your house will burn down at some point.
Yeah.
And so you get, I've had 2 houses there, you just get used to it. And the second house we moved into was a leased house, because I figured I'd be able to rebuild my house real fast with a sympathy vote from the city.
Yeah,
no,
right.
no. And I didn't know that this leased house, this beautiful house, was loaded with black mold. I said to Alan, our house is like a beautiful woman with syphilis. You can have her, but you'll pay. So the house was loaded with Stachybotrys, which is the worst kind of black mold. I got it in my GI tract. My husband got it in the base of his brain, the cerebellum, in the central nervous system. And the good news is I wrote a book about it called Toxic, and it was a bestseller.
Yeah.
But that was when I really started understanding the full effect of toxicity, mold being another toxin. In fact, the mold organism is the same as a cancer organism. So if you're living in a house with mold, take it very seriously. There's no quick answer, there's no drug answer, but I interviewed the best and the brightest in this country. And I think Toxic is one of my best books, along with A New Way to Age, says the entrepreneur. But this is what I do for a living. And had I not been fired from Three's Company, would any of this happen? Would I have been speaking in front of you at Harvard? No. So it all was as it was supposed to be.
Wow.
To be on a phone call with an interview with your husband about the entrepreneurship. There wouldn't have been the book. There wouldn't have been about what he went through and dealing with challenges. So all that would never have happened. That's for sure. Now, Dave, go ahead with the next question. I know you have a laundry list of questions. Time. And it's
I
so unbelievable,
love
Suzanne, for taking
Suzanne.
that much time for us. With her calendar's probably filled to the brim, just like mine. Or more.
So Alan is a big part of all of this. I mean, maybe this all wouldn't have happened without Alan, right? I remember at Harvard, you told the story about how he was, you heard something up on the hill and he was going to be the big macho guy and save you. And he ran up the hill and he ran down the hill. He scared whoever it was away. And then he jumped, this big Superman leap. Tell that story and tell us how you met Alan.
Well, my husband, for starters, has a conceal and carry permit because we live on a large piece of land here. And it's our Second Amendment right. And
Amen.
it was, I think it was Easter Sunday, and we walked down to our organic vegetable garden, this beautiful walk. And we're walking back, and I've got a basket full of cauliflower and broccoli, and I can't wait for the meal we're going to make. And I see right up on the hill here, there's a guy. And he knows he's not in the right place because our kitchen is right there, and there he was. So Alan goes around the back way, goes and gets his, his piece, and puts on his jack boots and a baseball hat and dark glasses and walks up the hill, 83 years old. But he's like not a normal 83 years old because I've taken such good care of him. So I'm watching from the porch, right from where I am right now, and I've got the camera going just in case I need any visual proof. And I see the guy do this, but Alan never pulled it on him. I just see the guy, what he was really saying was, I didn't realize. So then I see the guy walking over the hill, and Alan looks at me like, I know, I may be 83, but I'm pretty bitchin' cool. And now, I'm looking at it right now, you can't see it, but we have a golf cart path that goes up to our kitchen. And there's a 6-foot wall there. And he's showing off for his wife. He just scared away an intruder with the baseball hat and the wraparound sunglasses. And I see him do this, and then I see him jump. And what I saw was slow motion. In my mind, I'm going, no. He jumps, and it went very badly. I ran over there, and he was like a dead deer lying in the golf cart path. And so I said, I'm going to go get the golf cart. And he goes, you know how to drive it? I went, no, but I'll learn. By the way, it's not hard. I get the golf cart down to him, and he's dead weight. He can't lift himself. And, in crisis, there's a substance we all make called cortisol, and like how a mother can lift a car off her baby who's just been run over. I somehow got his, how much do you weigh, Alan?
180.
His 180 pounds into the golf cart. I took him down to the bottom of the hill. I said, I'm calling 911. That's when cops used to come. And I said, he said, no. I said, what do you mean no? He said, it's Easter Sunday. I'm going to get the F team. F as in front. And I went, you have to go to the hospital. He goes, no. So when he says no, he means no. And I wonder if you remember that when you were dating, when you were a kid, Alan, no means no. And so now I have to get him. We've got a little cart that goes up the hill on the other side because the golf cart only goes down, it doesn't go up. So now I got to get him over there and drag him into the little cart that goes up the hill. I get him up there at the top. I get him and I get him to the guest room. And I lie him down on the bed there. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought a bath would feel good. So I filled the bathtub with hot water, got him into the bathtub. And he's lying there and until the water sort of cooled off, it's now like 5:30 in the evening. And I said, so what do you want to do? You want to like lie in this lukewarm water the rest of the night? And he said, I want to go to my own bed. I went, of course you do. So now I got to get him out of the bathtub. I got to get him up the hill. I drape him around my neck. I get him in bed upstairs. So he's wincing all night long. And in the morning, I call this doctor, Darrow, a sports doctor that I've interviewed in a couple of my books. In fact, he's in this book, The New Way to Age. And I get a sentence or two into it. He goes, stop. He said, you're in danger. He said, he could clot and have a stroke and die.
Oh, no.
Oh my God. He said, call 911. So now it's not Easter Sunday, so maybe I'll get the C team. So I called 911. You know, when you live in a small town, this is Palm Springs, they were there within 5 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating. Suddenly in the bedroom were policemen, firemen, and I love, you know, I come from cops and firemen. I always feel great around cops and firemen. And they just took over and took care, and that's when I fell apart. And we get they get him down the hill, and they get him in the ambulance, and in the ambulance I'm saying how I had to carry him up. They go, you did? I said, yeah. And so he had dislocated his hip, and he felt rather stupid about it, but he got to show off for me. Was it worth it, Al? It was absolutely worth it.
Hell yeah.
That's the anytime we can do those things. And
yeah,
Dave,
I
Dave,
love men. I love men.
So Dave, I think that you probably told the story before, but I think that you have one more question for Suzanne before the caregiver question.
Yeah, you left out a good part though. What the doctor said about his bones. Remember that?
Oh yeah, we're not talking about boners, by the way. We're talking about bone density, that he had the bone density of a young man. And I think it's because of the way we take care of ourselves. I give him calcium every day, but you know, you can't just take calcium. You take calcium. Calcium wants to go into the arteries, you know, calcium deposits, and heart doctors always say, you know, you don't want calcium in your arteries. But if you take calcium along with vitamin K works like a traffic cop. So they always say vitamin K is good for your heart. What it's really good for is it tells the calcium that's trying to go into the soft tissues, the arteries, no, you got to go in the bones. And the vitamin K redirects the calcium into the bones. And I've been giving him that for years. And so he had these strong bones, and he healed really quickly. Wow. Is that the story you want me to tell?
That is the one. Thank you.
Okay.
Because I broke a couple of bones, and I want that as well. So
yeah.
We'll
well, remember when you take calcium, take vitamin K. And then also another really important supplement to take, especially with this pandemic. They say one of the most important things you can take is vitamin D3 and zinc. Mm-hmm. And I always have given him zinc, but vitamin D3, I have quadrupled mine and doubled his. But if you want vitamin D3 to really work, you also need to take K and magnesium for kind of the same reason. So these are little things that are in this book, but this book is filled with stuff like that. I find it fascinating that.
All right. So
if we don't have to take pharmaceutical drugs, which I'm not against, when you need them, you need them. They're a godsend. And I actually fractured my hip earlier this year. Whoa. So when you need them, you need them. But if you don't have to take them, if you can take a more natural route, wouldn't you rather? Because pharmaceuticals are a foreign molecule in the body. When it gets a foreign molecule, it goes, what's this? So I love what I do.
All right,
so
Dave,
as you know, I'm a careggiver. I gave you my 2 books when we were at Harvard. I've been caring for my wife 23 years now. We went through a grief process when she lost her speech and became paralyzed. We almost split up. It was hell on earth. But we hung in there, and she came around. She reinvented herself. Now I travel all over the country, speaking on television, stages, etc. Meet wonderful people like you. And my question in my book and on my website, caregiverdave.com, we talk about if you're not a caregiver, you know, don't just tune me out. You're either going to become one or you're going to need one. Those are your options. Now's the time to learn how to do it. How has caregiving, this may seem like a dumb question, how has caregiving affected your life?
Well, I know that Alan was very grateful. I would have done anything for him, anything. But I can only speak from my own perspective right now. Having had this fractured hip, somebody says you fractured your hip, you go, oh, okay.
Right. That's the
It
end.
doesn't sound very bad. It would be better to break your hip and have a hip replacement.
Mm.
So I wasn't allowed to move for 4 months. And during that time, Alan had to do everything. And I mean, everything. I couldn't get in or out of bed. So just, visualize that.
Oh, gosh.
And you know what that did? I love Alan Hamill. I loved him the day I met him 50 years ago. I think if there's something to past lives, we were together before, because the day I looked at him was like going in the comic books that we used to read. But his tenderness and his caring and his loving way with me has brought us to a new other level. And what I realized, the gift of aging, is that if you're lucky enough to love and be loved, love grows. Yeah. And I sometimes I burst with joy when he walks in the room, because he's so good to me. And whenever I say thank you for the way you've taken care of me, he always says it's my honor. And I'm sure you feel the same way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
My honor and my privilege. And you're right. If you haven't been a caretaker, you will be. Yeah. And with the way, do you want to go in a nursing home? No.
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 Not 9 out of 10 of them. I wouldn't put my cat
book.
in. Yeah.
Now buy your latest book. So where can we get it, Suzanne and stuff?
You can get it at SuzanneSummers.com. And while you're there, you might want to get some of that organic skincare, or you can go to Amazon or bookstores. But I go to the website, and I would just look through the stuff. There are 1,000 products. There's going to be something there you go, oh, that's interesting. And you don't like it, send it back. We even take it if you've used the whole jar. We don't care. What I was saying about tequila, because of the mold, that's why I brought up the mold and the house burning, not so you go, oh, you poor thing. I couldn't drink wine anymore. And that's the socially acceptable drink for females to drink. And when I was writing other books, I was noticing that women my age get puffy faces and kind of puffy upper body and puffy arms, and their bodies get puffy. Well, that's from all that sugar in that wine and all that yeast. But now I can't have it, because yeast and sugar is a happy meal for mold, and I had a stomach for mold. Wow. So my kids said, drink tequila. I said, no, I don't drink hard liquor. They said, I like it. So I tried it. I like it. So now, every Tuesday night and every Friday night, we have America's biggest virtual cocktail party. Bring your own tequila, bring your own salty appetizers, and ask questions. And Al and I sit there and we get a little high on our tequila. And what I have found is people love it, because I think loneliness is part of this pandemic. Yeah, and if you can, nobody likes to drink alone. That's sort of pathetic to drink alone. But if you can have a tequila with Suzanne and Alan, that's kind of fun.
Worth it.
And as you get a little high on your first 5 sips, so are we. And it gets kind of funny. Alan becomes kind of a bad boy. Yeah. And it's fun. So
I'm in. How do we get there?
Yeah, tomorrow night. You go to my Facebook page. Oh, is it tonight? Oh, right, tonight.
SuzanneSummers.com.
Yeah, or Facebook, Suzanne Summers Facebook. I should know that better. Facebook Live, Suzanne Summers.
Ah, okay.
Awesome.
Something like that. Anyway, that'll be tonight at 5 o'clock California time. And bring your own tequila. You're going to have fun. I swear to God, you're going to have fun.
I'll bring my wife. She loves tequila.
Ask questions. Awesome. And bravo to you for taking such good care of your partner.
I'd love to have you on my show, because I have a syndicated show for caregivers. They need to hear your story.
Have a Haley show, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.